Pennsylvania's gentle hills and winding river valleys hide stories that go way back before the colonial days. Beneath the woods and fields, you can find signs of civilizations long gone, strange carvings, hidden tunnels, and legends that seem almost impossible to explain. From ancient forts to mysterious rock art and giant skeletons, the Keystone State keeps its secrets, puzzles that make us rethink what we know about America's history. The Chickies Rock petroglyphs. High above the Susquehanna River near Columbia, a massive wall of dark quartzite rises from the wooded hills. Locals call it Chickies Rock, a name believed to come from a Lenape word often interpreted as place of the crayfish. Today, it's a popular hiking destination. Families come for the sweeping views, climbers test themselves against the cliffs, and couples gather at the overlook to watch the sun sink behind the ridges. But just below this calm and scenic place lies one of Pennsylvania's oldest and most intriguing mysteries: ancient carvings etched into stone, known as the Chickies Rock petroglyphs. These carvings, scattered along the rocky edges of the Susquehanna, are among the most significant petroglyph sites in the northeastern United States. Many sit close to the waterline, sometimes exposed, sometimes partially submerged depending on river levels, while others are hidden beneath moss and lichen. At first glance, they can look like little more than scratches, circles, spirals, lines, and simple human or animal-like shapes. But to archaeologists, they represent something far deeper, an enduring record of a culture that left no written language and whose beliefs are only partly understood. The first documented reports of these carvings date back to the 19th century, when local farmers and fishermen noticed unusual markings along the riverbanks. By the early 1900s, researchers had recorded dozens of petroglyphs along a stretch of the river between Safe Harbor and Columbia, with Chickies Rock standing out as one of the densest clusters. The designs vary widely. Some resemble human figures or animals, while others are purely geometric, circles, lines, and radiating shapes that some interpret as solar symbols. But identifying their creators has never been straightforward. Many scholars attribute them to ancestors of the Susquehannock or other native groups who lived along the river before European contact. Others suggest they may be older, possibly created by earlier cultures whose identities have been lost over time. Dating petroglyphs is notoriously difficult. Unlike artifacts such as pottery or bone, carved stone contains no organic material for radiocarbon testing. As a result, estimates vary widely. They could be several hundred years old or several thousand. What is known is that the river itself held deep meaning. For indigenous peoples of the region, the Susquehanna was more than a waterway. It was a living presence, central to survival, travel, and spiritual life. Carving symbols into the rocks along its edge may have been part of rituals, storytelling, or marking important events. Repeated motifs, hands, circles, and animal tracks might represent cycles of life, hunting traditions, or even cosmological ideas tied to the sky and seasons. Still, a few carvings have puzzled researchers. Early observers noted shapes that didn't clearly match known regional styles: angular lines, cross-like figures, and forms some interpreted as boats. These observations led to fringe theories suggesting contact with distant cultures, such as Norse or European visitors before Columbus. However, there is no credible archaeological evidence supporting those claims, and most scholars consider them unlikely. What remains undeniable is the atmosphere of the place. Stand near the river on a quiet morning, with mist drifting across the water and the soft sound of current against stone, and it's easy to feel a connection across time. The same river flows as it did centuries ago. The same rock faces still carry the marks left by hands long gone. Yet their meaning remains out of reach. Over time, many carvings have been lost. Rising water levels, especially after the construction of dams like Safe Harbor Dam, have submerged some completely. Others have been damaged by erosion or vandalism. In the 20th century, archaeologists from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission documented as many petroglyphs as possible through tracings and photographs, preserving a record of those that might eventually disappear. Many of these records are now housed at the State Museum of Pennsylvania. Among the most recognizable carvings are spirals, open hand shapes, and animal tracks, possibly deer or bear. One well-known grouping, sometimes referred to as Council Rock, appears to show human-like figures arranged around a central symbol. Interpretations vary. It could represent a gathering, a ritual scene, or even a symbolic map. Without a written key, its meaning remains open. What makes the site even more compelling is its connection to other petroglyph locations along the Susquehanna. From Safe Harbor to areas further downstream, similar carvings appear again and again, suggesting the river may once have served as a cultural and spiritual corridor linking different communities. Chickee's Rock, with its height and commanding view, may have been an important gathering place, both practical and symbolic. Some indigenous traditions describe certain stones as places of communication, locations where messages were left for the spirit world. While much of this knowledge has been fragmented over time, some modern native voices emphasize that such sites should be treated with respect, not disturbance. Visiting Chickee's Rock today, the line between history and mystery feels thin. The overlook draws attention, but the deeper story lies closer to the water. Under the right light, faint carvings can still be seen etched into the dark stone. Most are now protected, and access is limited to preserve what remains. Down by the river, the air feels cooler, heavier with the scent of damp earth and stone. Each carved line feels intentional, as if meant to endure far beyond the life of its creator. The mystery isn't just what the symbols mean, but why they were made here, in this exact place. The cliffs rise nearly 200 feet above the river, and at sunset the rock face glows with a warm copper tone. From the top, the landscape stretches for miles, rolling hills, forests, and winding water. It's the kind of view that invites reflection, even reverence. It's not hard to imagine gatherings here long ago, voices echoing, firelight flickering, symbols below catching the glow. In the end, the carvings are both message and mystery. They are fragments of human expression, preserved not by design alone, but by time and chance. They remind us that long before railroads and industry, this land was shaped by people who saw meaning in every element of the natural world. Today, the site is protected, and visitors are asked not to touch or disturb the carvings. Efforts are underway to digitally preserve them, ensuring they are not lost to time. And yet, part of their power lies in what we don't know. Standing at the overlook as the sun disappears behind the hills, you can feel both the weight of the past and the presence of the present. The same stone once touched by ancient hands now overlooks a modern landscape. But despite all our tools and knowledge, we still cannot fully understand what those symbols were meant to say. And perhaps that's the point. The Chickee's Rock petroglyphs don't just tell us that people were here long ago. They remind us that mystery itself is part of being human, that some stories are not meant to be solved, only remembered.
If you follow the winding backroads of southwestern Pennsylvania, not far from the Ohio border, you might pass a quiet hillside above Cross Creek without giving it a second glance. Just trees, rock, and the soft sound of water moving through the valley. But hidden beneath a sandstone overhang lies one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites in North America, Meadowcroft Rockshelter. At first glance, it's unremarkable, a shallow alcove carved into the hillside. Yet beneath its sandy floor is a record of human life that has challenged long-standing ideas about when people first arrived on this continent. Meadowcroft isn't just old, it's deeply ancient. Evidence from the site suggests humans may have been here as early as 16,000 years ago, possibly even earlier. That places it well before the era of the Clovis culture, which for decades was believed to represent the first people in North America around 13,000 years ago. The story began in 1955 when a local farmer, Albert Miller, noticed a small opening in the hillside on his land near Avella, Pennsylvania. While clearing brush, he found stone tools and fragments of pottery. Sensing their importance, he preserved the site. It wasn't until the 1970s that archaeologists, led by James M. Adovasio from the University of Pittsburgh, began full-scale excavations. What they uncovered was astonishing. Layer by layer, the ground revealed a continuous record of human occupation stretching back thousands of years. Fire pits, stone tools, animal bones, woven fibers, each layer like a page in a history book. Then came the radiocarbon dates. Some samples suggested ages approaching 16,000 years. At the time, this was shocking. It implied that humans were living in eastern North America thousands of years before the Clovis people. Naturally, many scientists were skeptical. Critics questioned whether the samples had been contaminated, perhaps by ancient carbon from nearby coal seams. Others wondered if older materials had somehow mixed into newer layers. But over time, repeated testing from multiple laboratories supported the findings. The site's stratigraphy remained intact, with no clear signs of disturbance. While debate hasn't completely disappeared, Meadowcroft is now widely considered one of the strongest pieces of evidence for pre-Clovis human presence in North America. Still, the site raises more questions than it answers.
The tools found at Meadowcroft don't match the classic Clovis spear points. They're smaller, more refined, made using different techniques. Whoever lived here followed their own way of life, hunting deer and small animals, fishing in nearby streams, and gathering wild plants. You can almost picture it. Families gathered around small fires, smoke curling up against the rock ceiling, the sound of wind and water echoing through the valley. What's even more remarkable is the continuity. People didn't just pass through once, they returned again and again for thousands of years. The upper layers show gradual transitions, new tool styles, pottery fragments, and eventually items linked to later indigenous cultures and early European contact. In one place, you can trace a vast span of human history, from Ice Age hunters to the ancestors of Native American tribes. But the biggest mystery remains: how did the earliest people get here? If Meadowcroft's earliest dates are accurate, they challenge the traditional timeline tied to the Bering Land Bridge. Instead of arriving around 13,000 years ago, humans may have entered the continent much earlier, possibly along coastal routes or through now-lost migration paths. Meadowcroft doesn't provide a clear answer, but it forces us to rethink the question. Today, the site is preserved beneath a protective structure, with walkways allowing visitors to look down into the exposed layers. Each visible stratum represents centuries of human life compressed into a narrow band of earth. Standing there is a strange experience. The place feels quiet, almost watchful. Not eerie, just deeply still, as if the ground itself remembers. Outside, a reconstructed historic village brings different time periods to life, from prehistoric camps to frontier settlements. But the real weight of the site is in the shelter itself. Because despite decades of study, Meadowcroft remains a reminder of how incomplete our understanding still is. History isn't fixed. It shifts with every discovery, every new piece of evidence, every assumption we're forced to question. And here, in a small rock shelter overlooking a quiet creek, the past still whispers, asking not just when humans came to North America, but how and why they chose to stay. The Nittany Lion legend. In the heart of Pennsylvania, between soft ridgelines and open farmland, rises Mount Nittany, a long forested ridge that watches over Pennsylvania State University and the town of State College. To most people today, the name is instantly familiar because of the Nittany Lion, the proud mascot of Penn State. Students gather around the famous limestone shrine. Fans chant the name in packed stadiums, and the symbol appears everywhere, from jerseys to coffee mugs. But behind that modern identity lies a much older story, one shaped by fragments of indigenous lore, frontier imagination, and a deep human need to believe that something watches over the land. Long before the university was founded in 1855, this region was dense wilderness, thick forests, clear streams, and mist-covered hills. Mountain lions, often called eastern cougars, once roamed these ridges. They were real animals, powerful and elusive, and for early inhabitants, they inspired both fear and respect. Over time, stories began to grow around them. It's important to clarify that there is no confirmed Lenape legend describing a specific Nittany Lion guardian spirit or a named figure like Nittany tied to the mountain. However, like many indigenous cultures, native peoples of the region held deep spiritual connections to the land and the animals within it. Later storytellers, especially in the 19th century, blended these ideas with imagination, gradually shaping the legend we hear today. One popular tale tells of a young woman associated with the mountain, sometimes called Nittany, whose story became symbolic of love, loss, and transformation. According to these later versions, her spirit became part of the mountain itself, giving it life and meaning. Over time, the image of a great lion was added, a guardian presence watching over the valley. These stories are best understood as folklore created and adapted over generations, rather than documented historical accounts. When European settlers arrived in the 1700s, they encountered both the landscape and its wildlife. Mountain lions were still present then, moving silently through Pennsylvania's forests. To settlers, they seemed almost mythical, creatures of shadow and strength. By the late 1800s, however, these animals had largely disappeared from the region due to hunting and habitat loss. The real lion faded, but the idea of it endured. Meanwhile, the area around Mount Nittany was gaining a new identity. As Pennsylvania State University grew, students began to adopt local symbols to define their spirit. In 1904, a student named Harrison D. Mason visited Princeton University and saw their tiger mascot. Inspired, he proposed that Penn State adopt something uniquely local. He chose the mountain lion, calling it the Nittany Lion after the nearby ridge.
The name caught on immediately. Within a few years, the Nittany Lion became the university's defining symbol, representing strength, pride, and independence. What began as a practical choice quickly absorbed layers of meaning, connecting the modern campus to the wild landscape that came before it. Still, the older, more mysterious tone of the legend never completely disappeared. Locals in the region have long shared stories of strange sounds echoing from the mountain at night, low, distant cries or movements in the trees. While wildlife explanations are far more likely, such stories continue to feed the imagination. Officially, agencies like the Pennsylvania Game Commission maintain that eastern cougars are extinct in the state, yet occasional reports of large, cat-like animals still surface. Most are likely misidentifications or rare wandering cougars from western populations, but for many, they echo something older, the idea that the mountain is not entirely empty. And Mount Nittany itself adds to that feeling. Trails wind through dense oak and pine forests, leading to rocky overlooks with sweeping views of the valley below. From the summit, the campus of Pennsylvania State University spreads out in quiet order, surrounded by rolling hills. It's the kind of place that invites reflection. On windy days, the treetops seem to roar like distant waves, and the air carries a strange, almost voice-like rhythm. Over the years, the mountain has become more than scenery. It's a symbol. When parts of it were once threatened by development, students and locals rallied to protect it. Conservation efforts ensured that the ridge would remain untouched, preserving both its natural beauty and its cultural meaning. There are also more grounded interpretations of the legend. Some historians believe the name Nittany itself may have evolved from native words describing the landscape rather than a single person or spirit. Others suggest that the romantic stories attached to it were shaped later, blending fragments of indigenous language with European storytelling traditions. But whether historical or imagined, the legend feels real in another way. It reflects a universal instinct, the desire to connect deeply with a place, to believe it holds meaning beyond what we can see. Today, the Nittany Lion Shrine stands as one of the most recognizable symbols on campus. Sculpted in 1942 by Heinz Warnecke, it draws visitors from everywhere. Students touch it for luck before exams, celebrations, and big games. It's more than a statue. It's a ritual, a shared belief in something enduring. Yet beyond the stone figure and the cheering crowds, the older feeling remains. At night, when the campus grows quiet and the valley rests under a sky full of stars, you can look toward Mount Nittany and imagine a presence on the ridge, a shape moving silently along the tree line. Maybe it's only imagination, or maybe it's the echo of something older, part memory, part myth, part landscape itself. The Nittany Lion endures as more than a mascot. It's a bridge between past and present, between wilderness and civilization, between what we know and what we feel. Beneath the noise of stadiums and the brightness of modern life, there's still a quieter rhythm. The mountain, the story, and the enduring sense that some places are never entirely explained.
The Cornwall Iron Furnace Tunnels. In the quiet town of Cornwall, there's a place that feels like it belongs to another century. Tall stone walls rise against the sky, iron gates stand heavy and still, and a faint metallic scent lingers in the air. This is the Cornwall Iron Furnace, one of the best preserved examples of early American industry. Built in 1742 by Peter Grubb, it helped fuel a growing nation with tools, stoves, and munitions during the American Revolutionary War and beyond. But beneath this impressive structure lies a far more uncertain story. Most visitors only see what stands above ground, a beautifully restored blast furnace complex, complete with charcoal houses and casting sheds that operated well into the 19th century. They hear about the Grubb family empire and how iron ore was smelted with charcoal and limestone, poured into molds, and shipped out to help build a young nation. Yet what many don't realize is that beneath their feet, there are long-standing stories of underground passages, tunnels, chambers, and shafts that were never fully documented and whose purpose remains debated. Some accounts claim these tunnels were first noticed in the late 1800s, when workers digging near older sections of the site reportedly broke through into narrow underground spaces. At first, these were assumed to be practical features, ventilation shafts, drainage channels, or remnants of early mining activity. That explanation fits what we know about 18th and 19th century ironworks. However, as the stories go, certain passages didn't quite match typical industrial design. They were described as unusually precise, with sharp turns and sections that seemed to end abruptly. Over time, more hidden spaces were rumored to exist, some extending beneath the furnace itself, others leading outward toward nearby hills. Still, it's important to note that no verified historical records confirm a vast, unmapped tunnel system beneath the site. This gap between documented history and local storytelling opened the door to speculation. Some believed the tunnels predated the furnace, possibly linked to indigenous groups who once lived in the region. It is true that Native American groups mined iron-rich minerals like hematite for pigments and tools, but there is no solid archaeological evidence that they constructed large underground tunnel networks here. Other explanations are more grounded. Historians suggest that any subsurface passages were likely tied to early industry, small-scale mining, drainage systems, or incomplete construction projects abandoned over time. Collapses, flooding, and centuries of change could easily have distorted their original layout. Still, the mystery took on a life of its own. By the early 20th century, local legends had grown.
Stories spread of strange sounds echoing underground long after the furnace fires had gone out. Some claims to have seen markings etched into stone, simple shapes like spirals or lines, though these could just as easily have been later graffiti. None of these claims have been scientifically verified.
In the 20th century, historians and researchers studied the site more closely, but their focus remained on the visible structures. While modern tools like ground surveys have been used in the area, there is no confirmed evidence of deep, extensive tunnel networks beyond what would be expected from industrial activity. Even so, the idea of hidden passages persists. A few modern explorers have claimed to find sealed entrances or unusual underground spaces, describing cold air pockets or strange acoustics. These accounts are anecdotal and remain unproven, but they continue to shape the site's reputation. What makes the story compelling is how it reflects a broader truth about Pennsylvania's past. Much of its industrial growth was built on land that already held centuries of human history. The Cornwall iron furnace stands as a symbol of progress, but also as a reminder that every place has layers, some well-documented, others less clear. Today, the furnace stands quiet. The fires are long gone, replaced by guided tours and school visits. When the air is damp, you can still catch the faint scent of iron, and your footsteps echo softly through the old casting rooms. But the real curiosity lies in what cannot be seen, the spaces below that remain sealed or uncertain. Some historians believe that future technology may one day provide a clearer picture of what lies underground. Others argue that what remains should be left undisturbed, preserving both the history and the mystery. Standing on the grounds now, it's hard not to wonder what might lie beneath. Perhaps it's nothing more than old shafts, stonework, and the remains of early industry. Or perhaps the stories grew from something real that was never fully understood. Either way, the silence of the furnace holds on to its secrets, and whatever exists below, whether ordinary or extraordinary, remains hidden in the dark, just out of reach, where history and imagination quietly meet. The Lost Fort of the Monongahela. If you drive through western Pennsylvania today, you'll notice gentle green hills, wide rivers, and quiet towns dotted across the landscape. But beneath that peaceful surface lies one of North America's oldest archaeological mysteries, the lost fort of the Monongahela people. This story begins long before steel mills, railroads, or football rivalries, when the land was home to a culture that vanished centuries before Europeans ever arrived. The Monongahela culture thrived roughly between 1050 and 1635 CE in what is now southwestern Pennsylvania, northern West Virginia, and western Maryland. They lived in circular villages surrounded by wooden palisades, suggesting a strong concern for protection. But who they feared and what ultimately led to their disappearance remains a mystery. The Lost Fort refers to an unusually large and complex site purportedly discovered along a tributary of the Monongahela River in the late 1800s. Early accounts describe massive earthen walls, multiple concentric rings, and trenches filled with burned debris, implying either an attack or deliberate destruction. Yet after those first reports, the fort seemingly disappeared. Modern archaeologists have never been able to locate it again. Part of the confusion stems from inconsistent records. Maps from that era were vague, and the tributary mentioned in early reports has changed course or may no longer exist due to river engineering. Some speculate that railroad construction or agriculture may have destroyed the site, while others suggest that amateur collectors carted away artifacts without documentation. What remains is a ghost of a place, a major site talked about for over a century but never definitively found. When viewed in the larger context of the Monongahela culture, the Lost Fort fits into a pattern of circular villages, farming of corn and beans, hunting deer, and trading for shells and copper. Their settlements often included multiple layers of post holes, showing that villages were rebuilt on the same spot for generations, signaling a deep attachment to place. The lost fort might have been a last-ditch effort, a refuge where scattered villages united to defend themselves against external threats, possibly raiders from neighboring regions. Other theories suggest a ceremonial or seasonal function. Perhaps it began as a sacred site and was fortified as circumstances grew desperate. By the 1600s, the Monongahela people disappear from the archaeological record entirely. There are no known direct descendants, and no oral traditions clearly link them to later tribes. Disease, prolonged conflict, or environmental pressures such as drought may have contributed to their vanishing.
The lost fort, in this sense, represents more than a missing site. It symbolizes the fragility of North America's earliest civilizations. Unlike the stone monuments of Egypt or Greece, much of pre-colonial North America was constructed from wood and earth, materials that decay rapidly. Their settlements leave traces in soil and post holes, not enduring monuments. Modern searches for the fort have used ground-penetrating radar, aerial photography, and LiDAR mapping. In the 1970s, a farmer uncovered a circular pattern of dark soil while plowing near Greene County. Archaeologists identified post holes and burned debris, but the site was small, likely just a single village. In the early 2000s, LiDAR scans revealed some geometric patterns, yet none matched the massive fort described in 19th century accounts. So, did the lost fort truly exist, or was it an exaggeration by early antiquarians fascinated with mound-building cultures? The truth may lie somewhere in between. The Monongahela people built fortified villages, and early observers may have overstated their size or importance. Still, the descriptions suggest something extraordinary once existed, a place of gathering, defense, and perhaps ceremony. Standing along the Monongahela River today, it's easy to imagine life here 1,000 years ago. Smoke rises from dozens of hearths inside wooden palisades. Families tend their crops. Traders arrive by canoe. Sentinels keep watch from lookout posts. Somewhere nearby, the lost fort may lie buried beneath farmland or forest, waiting for discovery. Archaeologists continue to study Monongahela sites, piecing together fragments of pottery, tools, and bones. Each find adds a small piece to the puzzle, yet the full picture remains out of reach. The lost fort is one of the last great enigmas of pre-colonial America, not just because we can't locate it, but because it embodies the impermanence of memory itself. Civilizations rise and fall, leaving behind only traces, or sometimes nothing at all. Visit the Monongahela River Valley today and you'll see parks, riverside trails, and old steel towns. Beneath your feet, however, lies a deeper history, vanished villages, forgotten peoples, and perhaps a fort that once stood as a final stand against time. Until undeniable proof emerges, the lost fort of the Monongahela endures as it always has, a haunting echo from an ancient America that refuses to be forgotten.